My goal in this video is to make Ben have to actually agonize over every second of editing this. Do I just kick it off?
You want to kick it off?
Welcome everybody in. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Tech Tuesday, where today I am your host, Josh Goodpasser, and I'm here with my wonderful friend, Tim Moore.
Hey.
This is episode 42 of Tech Tuesday, and we are happy to be back doing it for the people to answer your questions that y'all leave for us on all the YouTube videos and on our social media channels, and sometimes emails, and sometimes snail mail. So let's get right into it.
We've had written letters.
We have.
Yeah.
We've received quite a few, actually. Rickster FFR 5155, who says it would be also really nice if there was an option to manually turn an output on and off from the handheld. The use case would be a wiring check when installing the system, for example, the fan output wiring. What are your thoughts there, Timmy?
I agree. We do have a mysterious wire hidden in our harness that does a thing or two. We haven't figured out exactly what application we're going to do. It's probably going to be a ground trigger, low amperage situation. And that's something, as we advance our handhelds into user interface, we're going to probably throw a couple virtual buttons in there, especially when we start expanding our CAN network into maybe something with customizable inputs and outputs, perhaps. So that's a future thing, but don't get discouraged because we don't have it yet. We're just working on it. There's a lot we're doing to really refine everything we got to make it the easiest, best thing we got for the customer.
There you go. Yeah, definitely one of those surprise tools that'll help us later, so stay tuned. If and when we do release one of the features, could be multiple features for it, it will be it'll probably make its way to a YouTube video, to a YouTube channel near you, so stay tuned for updates there. Make sure you're signed up for our emails.
Oof,
that's how we like to let...
in it right there.
You hate to see that one.
Patina Truck Garage. The ability to control electronic boost controller, flex fuel capabilities, and NOx sensor inputs. Some of that, yes. I know we're fiddling with a boost controller, and we are currently messing with some flex fuel capabilities, which I hope that as we develop that, I'll be able to bring some more insight into the light as it goes. That way, people know that it's coming. Like, everybody has the idea that we've been messing with it, but we don't want to put out something that's mediocre, that functions, but it's not the best thing. So we're beating that kind of thing to death. But as you know, we took a little pause on that flex fuel stuff, and we're kind of getting back into it now that our trans control thing is done. We only have so many engineers.
And they're working around the clock, I'll tell you what. With the flex fuel stuff, too, I feel like most people, obviously there are some people that genuinely want flex fuel, but a lot of people will ask about flex fuel capabilities, but all they have in mind is actually E85. And so I know we have a lot of videos about it, but sometimes still people don't realize that that's a thing, that you can go in there and change, a few settings to make that work with it.
Yeah, that's true. You can kind of, a thing I did, which I didn't put in any of my YouTube videos, but a thing that I did do was I tuned my Tahoe on pump gas, which, as you guys know, that is what's running the Killshot Classic right now. Yep. I have a tune for my Tahoe in the handheld that is an E85 tune. All the calibration's already done, so if I'm at a pump somewhere and I'm like, I'll put some E in there, I can literally go upload the other tune out of the handheld. It's in the menu. I can just go to the files and say, send it, and then I'm running on that good, known E85 tune that I've developed. So you can just do that.
Very cool. That may bring up another question, too, that I maybe haven't thought to ask is the capability of having multiple tunes within the handheld. So instead of, times past we've been able to go in using the laptop software, go in and load like tunes that you've saved for different maybe engine configurations into the handheld. Do we have capabilities now for loading, being able to save tunes, like individual tunes, to the handheld and select whichever one you want? Like you said, for example, if you're at the pump and you want to put E85 instead of the regular pump gas, is that a capability that we have with our handhelds now?
Josh, are you asking me to make a video about it?
I think I'm asking you to make a video about it.
Let's do it.
Perfect. Black Pearl Camaro says, thanks for answering my question, and I have another. We love to see it. I use the ECM to control the fan. Is there a way that you guys can program to leave the fan on after the key is off, either till it cools or on a timing delay? I'd rather not run the 3 temp sensors for the dash, the ECM, and fan, etc.
I have an idea about that I have not quite sent up the food chain yet, but where the system cycles down, you turn the key off, the logic thing says, hey, there's no more power here, let's turn the rest of it off. I kind of wonder if it's not a good idea to actually do that, to where if the temp sensor reads a higher number than it really wants, it'll keep the fans on until it reaches the bottom number and then shut the rest of the system off. So we got to look at everything from safety to battery draw and all that stuff, because if you get a failed temp sensor, then your system will power itself back on if it's reading a certain value, especially after a key cycle. So that's something we have to look into, but I think that's worth looking into. I have a few people that's done some trickery with a few other coolant or temperature-based switches in our system at kind of like a secondary bypass on the ground. So even after you turn it off, it'll still trigger, but if the ground's still made through the temperature switch, it'll also trigger the relay as well as a secondary option. So a few people done some trickery stuff there, but I'd like to see it actually work in the system so you can set up parameters. Yeah. Either it's running by time, say it'll run like an extra minute and a half, or when it gets to a lower temperature. But here in the South, you want the extra cooling, especially if you're running like a big old 496 big block in your third-gen F-body Fox Camaro or whatever it is, and you got that high temperature issue going on because there's not a lot of airflow that happens underneath the hood, so you kind of want some extra airflow even after the engine's sitting there roasting everything under the hood with the engine off, if that answers it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. This also reminds me of another thing that somebody brought up recently is, it's not a question on this YouTube channel, but it's a question that was asked. It's about our ECUs and their resistance to heat. So being under the hood next to the engine, it's going to get a little warm under there. Obviously, we designed them for that, but what happens whenever it gets too hot, whether it's because it's just unbearably hot outside, or maybe your cooling system for your engine is not quite up to speed. But you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the ECUs are actually set up that they will shut down if it gets too hot. So it kind of as a safety device to prevent it from messing up anything inside of the computer, but it will actually, once you get to an extreme temperature, that's just the behavior of the ECU, is that it's programmed to just shut itself off so it doesn't mess anything up.
Most electronics can go into thermal overload for sure. With the temperature under the hood, it's not so much about the one time that it gets hot, but how frequently does it get hot? Because if you go through a bunch of electronic principles, if you're looking at resistors and capacitors and chipsets and whatnot, there'll be a temperature rating and a longevity rating. So you can keep something so hot up to a temperature for so long, it'll shorten the life of a component. It may, I've ran a Killshot ECU at a steady 250 degrees with a heat gun under the hood running it just to see what it'd do. Melted some connectors, but hey, it held on a very long time. And it still works, weirdly enough. It just got really, really hot and did some funny stuff. But, you start running to that thermal overload stuff too frequently, and it will damage the ECU eventually. But that might be a really neat, tech series. How much does it take to destroy the thing?
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
What would it take? Or the videos where they do, it's what's inside of it, or they just take it and see.
I already did that one.
Yeah. You cut it apart. Or just like you said, test it, take it to the limit, see what all it's capable of.
True.
Surely they'd sign off on that.
I could stick one in a bucket of water and see how long it goes before it gives it up.
Yeah.
I could put a torch on one and see how long before it gives it up. Because our ECUs are very resilient to a lot of interesting environmental factors. But
definitely,
that'd be neat.
Richter FFR F1 5155. This may be. Oh, it's another question. Let's go. Says, you mentioned the timing follow table in this episode relating to tuning out popping on deceleration. Could you explain how this table relates to timing? I couldn't find much documentation or explanation on it.
Right on. So the follow table is basically you're cruising down the road, 30% throttle, 5,000 RPMs, having a party, and you let off the throttle. The throttle goes into its closed position. Well, it'll go from the main base table to a follow table, which is the deceleration timing values. So it'll go from 32 degrees to 15 degrees. And if the timing is too retarded in that table, it's not burning all the air. It's not burning all the air fuel mixture. So it's just reigniting the hydrocarbons as it superheats them coming out the pipe. So it'll sit there and pop and bang and backfire and carry on. But if you advance the timing in that deceleration table just a smidge, it gives it more of a chance to ignite the mixture sooner in the cylinders itself. Takes a little load off the engine as well, but it'll burn more of the mixture, so you'll have less of that popping effect out the tailpipe. But the pops and bangs is actually good if you're in a racing application because it means that fuel is still in there doing that thing. So when you go to get back into the throttle, it's all there. You don't have to wait for transient fuel values and all the calculations to go on. It's like it's already kind of rich on the D-cell. So then when you go to give it the beans, it just goes. That's why we have the option now to turn it on and off. We've got a lot of people requesting that because they want the deceleration fuel cutoff to be turned off. But for a normal daily driver, you kind of want it on because it will go lean. But if it's still too rich for that, you want to throw a little extra timing in that table.
The next question is also from Rickster, who says, do you have plans to make your tuning software available for Mac users? I would love to see this become available. We don't have it currently yet, unless you're using, there's a program, I don't know if we're allowed to shout out other software companies, not a conflict of interest. Parallels, I think there's a lot of people in our Facebook group that have used Parallels successfully. I've used it successfully to run the tuning software, and it runs really, really well. It's just an application that you download. I think they have a trial version, and then you can pay for like a yearly subscription as well, but you download the software, open it up, and then also download the PC tuning software from the Aces website, and then you're able to run it inside that program. I guess it's kind of like a emulator, maybe.
That'd be what it is.
Okay. And I know it comes with, I believe it already has its own like license of Windows to run it like within that app. So, and it worked pretty well. I didn't test it like plugged in. I just ran the software. So I've not had personal experience running it, but I know, like I said, a lot of people in our Facebook group, they've had a lot of experience with it and they seem to like it. But as far as our plans for making it available for Mac users, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I know we've talked about it before. I don't know where exactly it's in the works, but I tell you how stuff gets done. Like I said, we like to do stuff for the people. How stuff gets done is if we have enough people ask for it, chances are it's going to probably happen pretty soon. So just like, I mean, the pink Killshot may be a good example of it. I mean, a lot of our products are good examples, but enough people were like, hey, no, actually, that's really cool, and I would buy it. And so we're like, okay, well, we might as well make it then, and it's worked. So if we have more... Yeah. If we have more people asking for it, then chances are it'll probably happen. But until then, Parallels is a really good program to run it. The next,
we're not endorsed by them by any means.
No, not at all. Would love to be, but not currently.
Mac stuff.
Yeah.
Ew. #nasty.
I'm a Mac fan. I'm an Apple fan.
He is.
I love me some of the Apple ecosystem. Next question comes from @4U2NVMC Minnesota. Says, does the Jackpot system control boost with Mac valve? So different type of Mac this time.
At Mac that I know.
Yes.
And the answer is no. If you're using a 3-port Mac valve, we don't have the appropriate pulse width modulated output to control that. But we are making a boost controller. I don't know where in the works we are with that because I can't wait to test it. I have a Silverado with a single turbo on it, and I want to do something cool with it. So as soon as that's out and available, you'll see social media posts, you'll see adverts and all that whatnot. And then You'll see me on a video probably sweating to the oldies outside, fiddling with a 3-port Mac valve because I bought a 3-port Mac valve. I've also got the dual one from our competitor because I had one laid on the shelf from another project. But we're gonna do that, and I'll show you how to set up a table or two. As soon as that becomes available, I want to get that information out before we even release the thing. That way, people just know.
Yes, sir. All right. So the next question comes from Gavin Angston, 8315, who says, how long should my car stay in open loop on a hot start? My car seems to run funny after a hot start and will stay in open loop for about 2 minutes before returning to closed loop. Any help is appreciated.
Yes, it does that. So, any hoozles, you start your car up and it's hot. Say there's too much fuel in there. It's really looking to... anytime the O2 sensor is operating, it's heating itself up. So it has a heater. It has to reach a certain resistance value, a certain temperature as it's looking at through the ADC. And when it reaches that, what it will do is then go into closed-loop operations. Now, that could be dependent on the engine temperature. And that could be dependent on how much fuel you got, whether it's cooling the O2 sensor, if the heater's working correctly, if there's a voltage deficiency in your system. If you have a lower voltage in your system, it'll take longer for that O2 sensor to get up to temperature. Also, if you got too much fuel, which can be damaging to the sensor inside of it. Oh, look, there's a video of me in there. Normally when you, say you start one up and you get it to temperature, it's in closed loop doing its thing, you turn the key off and you start it back up. It'll stay in open loop for about 20 seconds on a nice hot start. If it's taking longer than that, then you got a few factors interfering with that thing going back into closed loop, which could be voltage. Could be fuel related, or just could be engine temperature related. So that's something to look at the values of where it's supposed to go into closed loop, where it's supposed to go into learning, and also what does it say on your handheld for your voltage. If it's too rich and running funny, then you might be cooling that sensor down a bit much, and it's struggling to get that resistance value it needs to go safely into closed loop.
Kyrie Prophet 6598, who says, how do you bring the air fuel ratio down on the Killshot system?
Well, depending on what you mean by there. If you're looking for its target value, you can just adjust that in a handheld under fuel and basic, I believe. Or if you're doing it in an advanced 2D table, use a software. If it's rich, if it's naturally rich, but it's still not meeting its target value, like if you start it up and it's forcing itself into open loop and not going into closed loop, and it says like 11.5 or something like that on your AFR, and it's too rich, you can go into your fuel table offset and move that scale down. Like if it comes set on a stock cam at 90%, move it down to like 80 or 70 or something like that, and see if it leans it out a little bit more, because what you're doing is you're taking fuel out of the table by messing with that little linear coefficient value that's cubic inches versus fuel and a bunch of other weird background math stuff. But that's what offsets that table. And if it's too rich, move that down a little bit and see if it makes it happier, because eventually it'll go into learning, and then it'll start offsetting the fuel table in all the appropriate spots. Yeah.
Good stuff. And y'all may have mentioned this in previous episodes, but we're working to not only have videos of all this, but also tech articles. So for a lot of these questions, we'll have tech articles that your very own Tim will be the author of, putting those together to help explain some of these things. That way you have those to accompany the videos. It says, Aces intake that's not the multi-port injection variant, ? I'm interested, but at the moment of this comment, there are no listings on the website for any of the big three. Mopar getting nothing for the multi-port kits as well. Well, we do have somewhat of an update for that's coming soon. We do have some of the intakes that don't have the injector bungs in them. We have those in stock possibly, I think. I'd have to check, honestly. I know I've seen pictures of them. We may have them in stock, but our goal is to release those ASAP Rocky, get those up on the website, so that way folks can purchase them. Let's see, and then also the Mopar ones. I believe we're getting Mopar in soon. Don't know if that's a big company secret that I may have just released there. I don't think it is, because I've definitely told other people about it already. But
and it is what it is, dude.
You hate to see it. If you never see me on Tech Tuesday again, it's because I got fired for telling people that. But no, I think we do have the Mopar ones in stock, and we do plan to release those as well. So stay tuned. We'll have a whole classic manifold section on the website where you'll be able to purchase manifolds individually for multi-port projects, or like I said, the ones that don't have the injector bungs, if it's maybe for a carbed or like TBI project.
Speaking of secrets, fun fact, I've been fit checking a whole lot of Mopar stuff here recently, so...
Some distributors?
Distributors.
You love to see it.
Hall effect distributors, and in a Hall effect situation, you're only going to use it really for one or two things.
Yep.
So, yes.
Yeah, I know people have been asking for the Mopar stuff for a long time, and so, initially we kind of stuck with for our customer base, what was more popular, more the small, big block Chevy, Ford stuff. But Mopar, we started seeing those requests come in, and so we're making it happen.
You got anything else for us, Josh?
That is all for today. I believe this is my first Tech Tuesday. Hopefully you guys will have me back. Hopefully I didn't ruin any of the takes, make Ben's editing job too hard.
Oh, he's got a guy for that now.
Yeah, that's true. He has help, so no complaints. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We hope to see you back next time on episode 43 of Tech Tuesday. Again, make sure you guys are leaving us comments in the section, because we need content to answer questions.
I love it. And to get a question answered, if we post this video, put your question in the comments of this video, and we'll answer it on the next video. So I get that question a lot. Where do we ask the questions at? It's really any social media. I mean, you put it on Facebook. We're having out old videos, new videos, because we go through the comments section, and it's kind of just they're there. They pop up as the newest stuff, and sometimes we even do stuff that's off of my videos.
That's true.
So,
like I said, make sure you ask for Tim's poetry, because it is a real treat.
Don't do that. Y'all don't want to hear that. But I will publish the book eventually.
One of these fine days. Well, we thank you guys for joining us for another episode, and we hope to see you soon next time.
All right. Thank you. Bye now.